Welcome to Coffee and History, a conversation with Alabama Heritage. We are your hosts. I'm Rebecca Linder.
I'm Susan Reynolds.
And I'm Caroline Gizera-McKenzie.
Join us as we sit down with some of the most fascinating folks in the Alabama community as we bring you the stories of Alabama that educate, inspire, and entertain. Before we dive into today's conversation, let's kick things off with our Did You Know segment, where we bring out a fun fact about the state of Alabama that could be something new to our listeners and viewers. It actually could be something new to us as well. Mm-hmm. So, Susan, do you have a fun fact for us today?
I do. And it's actually one that I was just working on yesterday in a student blog post, so very interesting. So,
Hi, I love it.
Did you know that in 1826, Tuscaloosa became the state capital?
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So it was voted to become the state capital in 1825. I found that out yesterday, but it actually was moved to Tuscaloosa as the permanent capital, they thought, for that time.
Right.
Yes, from what we call Old Cahaba today.
Temporarily.
Yes, exactly. But Tuscaloosa did serve as the capital until 1846, so that was a good long run. Even building a state house, now known as Capitol Park. And in 1923, a fire destroyed that building, leaving behind the ruins we know and love today.
Yep. And funnily enough, I have some special memories of Capitol Park, including taking evening strolls with my now husband. Yes, when I was working at the Tuscaloosa News, I was on the copy desk, and so he would bring me dinner, and we would go for a walk, and that was just what we did.
My memory of Capitol Park was the day that we took photos out there, and it was so cold.
We did some photos for Alabama Heritage, and it was like ice, and I don't know why we picked that day, probably because it wasn't raining or snowing, but it was definitely cold. Oh my gosh. And actually, Capitol Park is stop number 1 on the Tuscaloosa Civil Rights Trail, so you guys go check it out. There's lots of history there as well.
And today's guest is very familiar with Capitol Park.
And that's right, because he used to live
there.
He used to live in the park under the bridge of the phone. But just seriously, today's guest is the arts and entertainment writer for the Tuscaloosa News, and actually I'm sure his title is a lot different now because it's changed quite vastly. He has written about the West Alabama community for more than 35 years. He was part of the Pulitzer Prize team coverage for the 2011 tornado. Ooh, good job. He's an alumnus of the University of Alabama and founder of the Mood Mechanicals, which we'll talk a little bit about later, but that's a Shakespeare theater group, folks. So please welcome to our podcast, Mr. Mark Hughes Cobb.
That sounds like a lot more than 3 people.
Yeah.
Hey, we can make this happen.
We have quite an audience here who love you.
Hey, what can I say? So,
Big fan group.
I obviously have some of the best memories and opportunities while working at the Tuscaloosa News. And I worked with you for quite a bit, as well as so many other aspiring journalists. How has the field evolved for you, and are you still able to mentor the future journalism majors?
I mostly tell them don't. But I did speak to a class just the other night, and I've done that on and off for years. I don't know why people think I know anything. But the field has evolved. Well, mainly the business has sunk, as most people know, this century since about 2008 or 9. So we have, where we once had 50 people in the newsroom, we have 7.
Wow.
I am half the reporting staff. 7 is counting sports too, so you know.
Yeah.
It's very different. We don't at current have an intern program, but we still, are open to the idea. It's just that our corporate owners don't have any money.
Right.
They say.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, I know that the newsroom has evolved, and it's not just it. It's the whole idea of having a community newspaper. And, Alabama Heritage is a print magazine, which you can subscribe to at alabamaheritage.com.
Or give it a
good. But we are actually celebrating our 40th year. And so for a print magazine to still be around and have, such big supporters and subscribers is, that's pretty amazing. And I never thought that I would see the day where Tuscaloosa didn't have a print daily newspaper. And I think I remember when I was young that Tuscaloosa News even had 2 editions, like a morning edition and an evening edition, and a lot of newspapers would do that, have multiple dishes throughout the day. And that's just insane. That was way before, computers, when you put everything online.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband also worked at the Tuscaloosa News, so it's a very small community here, and he was in the circulation department, and so circulation would change and evolve, and then that's when just the investment just wasn't there, and you're one of our stalwart people, and we're so glad that you're still part of it.
Otherwise, I'm employable.
That's not true.
Oh no, you have very,
talents.
very many talents, Mark, and you know that. We'll be talking about some of those. So it was really great. It's really great that you're still there, and I know you're probably writing more than just arts and entertainment. I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of things are you having to cover?
Well, and again, half the staff, so literally anything, healthcare, university. I haven't written sports. I've written a few things for sports, but basically anything that pops up. We have a staff meeting once a week, and it's a very quiet place otherwise. And we decide what we're going to cover that week. And it's Ken goes, Mark, have you got that? Or has Jasmine got it?
Right.
So it's a pretty easy decision, really.
Yeah.
Just any meeting. There's no money on it.
Well, but I'm sure you must have learned a lot. It's kind of like throwing you in the deep end and saying, okay, well, now you're going to talk about politics, and here you go. And
Yeah.
so I'm sure
the city
it's been-
government is especially tricky. That's it's not that they're trying to be. I don't think they are. It's just procedural stuff. I mean, frequent touch with Jason Morgan, who used to be our city government guy. It's like,
Well, and we all had our own different beats and stuff, and you were focused on arts and entertainment. So going in and being thrown into the politics side of it, you're got to learn there. It's all good.
it's mainly just nuts and bolts.
Mhm.
I mean, I've always known these people. I used to work at the same gym, so it's just a matter of finding out why that has to go that way.
And
Like,
Walt,
why does it-
you're
Oh,
referring
Walt,
to
yeah.
Walt Maddox, our mayor.
We're
Yes.
allowed to refer
Yes.
to him by his
Just-
first name
just so
if we
that-
are of his age.
Right, just the people
Or
who are listening to the podcast who we know we're referring to our mayor. So he was very accessible, and you can actually see him on the street and just talk to him.
Comes out of Druid City and plays Mario Kart.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's a normal person. Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like it also has, forced you guys to learn things that other people would have done, like updating the website and, doing your own photography or videography or things like that. I mean, has that been a big part of what you're now evolving into?
Well, as far as still photography, I've done that since college. That's something that was kind of ingrained in us. And anytime we go on the road, we typically couldn't afford to bring two people.
Right.
It just sounds so cheap now. But they did actually these gas mileage in hotels. So we've done a lot of our own still photography for a long time. But videography now is more our responsibility. And again, back when we were in the building, the new building that the New York Times bought in 2003, it's about a $30 million thing. So they were investing. We had, I think, 5 videographers, people just shooting video and editing, and we have 0. Well, we have us.
Yeah.
But everything is capable of being done. It's not that complicated. To do it well is a different game.
Yeah.
We were all encouraged to shoot video while we're doing 3 other things. So we really need to graft another arm to do everything properly. But otherwise, it's a change. It's just not that much of a change. It's an evolution.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, it's still great that you guys are still able to produce content that is specific to West Alabama, especially the Tuscaloosa community. And so we still have that local source. And there's a lot of people who don't. And there's a lot of communities, in this country that don't have a local coverage. All they have is something from a national feed or a regional feed. And so it's really great that you're still able to provide coverage of what's going on at city council meetings, or, what has the university invested in, and, why is that bridge not working? So it is, I mean, I know that's a lot of, different things that you're having to cover now, but it's just nice knowing that we still have somebody as that resource that can be that sounding board for us.
And you also have a big following. People actually know your name and they keep up with what you do. I remember
Fan club.
Yeah, you have a fan club for sure.
So you
Especially
need to start paying
Yeah.
to do this because I haven't seen that.
well, you need to start posting about that in your group. Be like, okay, to get my quality entertainment, this is what you have to do.
Retirement.
So we did mention, the Pulitzer Prize. That's a big deal. So can you kind of, it is a pretty huge.
As everybody was telling us when that came out, said, you can put that on your tombstone. I said, not anytime soon.
We're not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
But exactly, first of all, why did you guys win the Pulitzer? What was it for? And then what was it like creating the content that won that award for you? And I can only imagine, because that's back when you guys did have really a full staff. So it must have been wonderful to celebrate together. So just to describe, what was it about, the content that won the award, and then what was that like?
Well, it was for the coverage in the immediate aftermath of the April 2011 tornadoes actually happened, but that one specifically that, as Walt will tell you, destroyed 13% of the city in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
So what we won for, what the Pulitzer Committee noted us for, was specifically that we got the news out. We still printed that night, had the newspapers out, and we got online, we did everything, and we did a lot of social media posting too. That was at the time not new, but it encouraged more. So they noted that we were on what was then called Twitter and Facebook and other things, telling people things like, here's where you go to charge your phone, here's where you go to get clean water. So it was in part the service as much as for the reporting, which was handy because our power was out. We had a generator that could run 4 workstations upstairs where we worked and 4 downstairs for pre-print. So we could only have about 2 people writing at once. One person was with the copy desk design, and one was an editor editing the copy. So when you weren't writing, you jump up and go answer phones and talk to media. I talked to somebody from Australia and somebody from Seattle, radio stations, TV stations, all wanted to call. And then it was a matter of taking all the little bits of information we were getting and sharing them, basically from our cell phones, because not much else was really.
Right. I remember also that you guys did something that was very important, and that was fact-checking.
Oh.
Because there seemed to be, when your community is devastated as much as ours was at that time, people are going to want to know where everybody is. There's missing people. Was somebody found here? Was there a dead body in the lake? So the lake is drained just to see. And so all of the different things, there's been a lot of, I won't call it disinformation, but it was just, rumors. People said, I think this happened, and then it goes crazy. And I felt like you guys did a really good job at trying to make sure that everybody knew. It's like, okay, well, this is the rumor we've heard. Now we're going to check on it and see if this is accurate. And then you either say yay or nay, or there is a little smoke that goes with that fire.
The rumor blog was very popular. With us, too, because it was fun to keep up with, because a lot of it was kind of kooky and things like, there were 17 bodies found in Forest Lake, which is great. There were bodies found in Forest Lake, which wasn't great. They were the ice trucks full of bodies. I actually contacted a guy named Jan Harold Bloomberg, who's, I think, in Colorado. He used to appear in Ben Letterman. He's the urban legend expert. And he put this into perspective. He said, in times of great tragedy, people imagine things being even worse to protect themselves. Mm-hmm. So some of that was kind of part of a pattern. He said he noticed in other great tragedies. But yeah, some of it was just kooky, like there was bands of roving, criminals. And so you just had to give the poor beleaguered police chief a call and say, hey, are there any bands of roving criminals today? And he would go, no, still no bands of roving criminals.
Haven't seen any yet.
Yeah, like bands of roving criminals sounds like putting together a group to perform.
Right, yeah, it sounds honestly like a music.
It really does, the bands of roving criminals.
A great band.
Probably.
Yeah.
But they were all kind of crazy. The University Mall was a big one. There were bodies on top. People just envisioned the bodies everywhere.
Well, I think it's because the tornado was huge.
Yeah,
Everybody calls it the monster, and it did pick up bodies and move them.
Sure.
And,
people were killed that way.
Very famously, with one of the football players and his girlfriend was, they were holding on to each other, and then he opened his eyes and she was not there.
Yeah,
so
that's one of the weird ones that's true.
Exactly. And so I think when you do hear that, a bit of truth about something that did happen, then that's when your mind goes wild. And once you see it, Well, I think some of the people who were in the middle of it, they see it and they go, yeah, that probably could happen. But then you have people who were on the outskirts of parts of Tuscaloosa that did not get hit,
Right.
and then they were like, gosh, what's going on?
Like across the river.
Yeah, what's going on across that bridge? Yeah. It's like, it's like a war zone over there, and it really was. And so they don't really
People were surprised that only 53 people died because it really looked like it should have been much higher.
It did.
So I understand that much.
But the coverage that the team provided in 2011 is just incredible, and truly, it was one of the things I loved most about working with you, was learning from you.
Sure. Well, we stayed up all night. We had sandwiches in the building. It kind of felt like a camp out kind of thing. Obviously, it was dire circumstances, but it was. What was interesting to me is that nobody really seemed to be doing anything any differently.
Right.
We basically do that every day. It's just that it's not always about terrible stuff. The crew is in there working. The designers are there. The doctors come running in. All that was just basically the same thing, except we had power out and we were answering a lot more phones.
Right. So when you won the Pulitzer, tell us about that experience.
Well, we got to notice in, I think it was April or March, it was sometime late winter, early spring, and I remember thinking, we don't have champagne every morning.
You walk in the office expecting coffee.
Yeah, coffee and misery.
Typical newsroom.
Especially in a
There's
London.
several of y'all that have kept your champagne bottles still to
Oh
this
yes,
day.
I still have mine. We found the news. We knew we'd been nominated, but being nominated it's like it's not the same as being nominated for an Oscar. You can nominate yourself.
Right.
So anybody can be nominated. But the last time the Teen News had won was like 1957. I think,
Wow.
for that front page editorial. And papers such as ours don't always get that kind of notification because typically, generally it's for a series of stories or in-depth stories. And we don't have staff to usually do that kind of work. So this was given for spot news, is what they call that, meaning things that happen in the moment. So yeah, it was fun. We kind of were all sort of stunned because that Christmas, April 2011 was when the tornado hit. We did a lot of work those next few days, then we went back to more or less normal function. That Christmas, we were sold by the New York Times. We were all kind of on edge, knowing, am I going to have to return all my Christmas presents this year? I don't have a gig. But we were sold to the group that currently swallowed another group, and swallowed another group, and swallowed this group that now is a part owner. But it was a bit of uncertainty, and so we kind of we needed some good news.
Yeah.
And obviously the tornado was not good news for anyone, but winning that award for our work was a pretty big lift. Yeah. And we kind of, I won't say words because I know we have to believe them, but we had a few words for our former owners in our celebrations.
It's like,
hey guys,
look at what you got rid of.
We just want to
look what you just lost.
Exactly. Well, there's a lot of things that I think this community did actually have some positivity because, again, we worked really hard at the University of Alabama to win a national championship.
Sure.
And so I think there was some things, where the community tried to rally and they tried to, toward the end of the year, have something that would, because it was so hard for so many. So I think that's great that you guys, were rewarded for the good work that you did because I know there was a lot of people who depended on those tweets that you guys sent out. It's like, so
some
where do
people
I go?
only had phones.
Right. Well, my phone died in the middle. I had to go buy a new phone because it kept blowing up with so many, tweets that, it just couldn't handle the memory. And then it's, but it would say stuff like, here's where you can go and have your laundry washed. Because there was
that's probably where you and I first met.
Yeah, you don't even think
because I
about
was
it.
doing
It's like, and it's like, okay, well, I need to wash our clothes because we lost our house. We can't do this. And so you can go to the mall and there's this mobile unit that will do it for you. And
they wash your dryer, trailers.
Yeah. So it was great. It was such a great service for people who were affected by the tornado to have that type of coverage. So thank you for doing that.
Do you remember who nominated the Tuscaloosa News for the Pulitzer?
I would imagine it was our top staff, probably Doug Ray, who's the executive editor.
Okay, I just wasn't sure and I couldn't remember.
I'm not sure exactly how it was. I just know that the papers nominate themselves often.
Okay.
So, I don't know how many times we have tried.
Yeah.
Because it is, again, something that it's usually extraordinary. I think perhaps the news itself being extraordinary was a big part of it.
Yeah, definitely worth it, that's for sure.
But they did we needed to have.
Yes.
It's
No,
great.
they were not being nice. You guys really earned that.
Nobody knows me.
Well, we've been talking about you being a journalist, but you've worn many hats during your life. So everything from, a bouncer to an actor to a truck driver to a singer. So what made you decide to go into writing?
I've always written. I had a very good fortune. I had 4 brothers, 4 brothers, 2 older, 2 younger. But for a while I was the baby, and so anytime anybody paid attention to me, I paid attention to them. So my big brother Scotty, who was 2 years older when he would come home from kindergarten, would teach me everything we learned. So I learned to read and write before kindergarten. Mrs. Pruitt was very strict and very stern. She had a ruler that had 3 boards, I think, red, yellow, and blue, and this is the sadistic part. She let you choose what color you're going to get. Like, do you want to feel blue? I was like, no.
I definitely don't want to feel red.
Don't want to feel red, but yeah. And spoiler, none of them were good. But she did teach, and so Scotty was learning the alphabet and numbers, and I was too. We were fortunate to be born with spongy brains, and so I was reading before I even started kindergarten. I started writing shortly after. My handwriting's abysmal. So the good thing about that is if somebody found these terrible stories, they wouldn't be able to read them.
I'm sure somebody can decipher it.
Recently my cousin Candy found some samples of our grandfather's handwriting, or grandfather, great-grandfather. One of them way back when, and his handwriting was exactly as bad as mine. So I came by it naturally.
So is handwriting now genetic? Because,
he was a preacher, so I think he's probably creative.
Yeah, I think creative people do that in some writing.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Don't have time to focus.
You're okay.
But yeah, so writing, is a short version. Writing is something I've always done since I was a kid, and I didn't do a whole lot of journalism until I hit college, and then I thought, I need a job, and I need some discipline, so I need deadlines, and I just didn't feel like going to grad school to become a writer. I did take fiction writing classes with some great people, but I did not think that was a way to make money.
So, Susan mentioned you were a singer, so what were the name of your band?
Which one?
All of them.
Okay, the very first band, high school, Engine Jack and the Silk Pistons. I did not name that. I was a guitar player and singer. Then the band Silver Rose. Then I went solo for a while. Then in college I sang with a bunch of different bands. I don't remember all the names. There was a guitar player guy who was far advanced to me, and he kind of dragged me around, so I was totally a singer. So I was singing with a bunch of different bands. Then there's kind of a long period where I didn't. Went to Long Beach for my first job after college, and there wasn't much to do down there. You had to either play Jimmy Buffett or Spinal Tap.
Right. So yeah, very beach
nothing
music.
against Buffett,
Yeah.
but he made a friend of mine very, very well off playing with him. But I started again in about the time I was getting divorced, coincidentally, and a guy found me. We were singing at a party together, and he's like, "Hey, we sound good together." And somebody else said, "You sound good together." So if you have 2 votes of confidence, you go ahead and make a band. That was the Corvairs. The Corvairs involved in the Crying Jacks. The Crying Jacks, different band became the Damn Dirty Apes. The Damn Dirty Apes.
I like that
Simple Tones. Yeah, that was at Guerrilla Theater here on campus for quite a while. The Simple Tones was one, and then the Infinite Monkey Typing Pool. That's a sort of long-winded Shakespeare joke.
I love these names.
So there's as much creation going into the names as anything else. And,
the bands were horrible, but the names were great.
They look kind of marquee. And then when I play acoustic, I call it MHC and the Biscuit Cannons because I love the Montgomery biscuits.
Oh, nice.
I like that.
And you have played at like some of the Chuck reunions and Chuck
Yeah.
meetups and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
the
you're-
Crying Jacks played the first Chuck meetup.
So you're still involved.
I still play.
Limitedly.
Like next month, well, I don't know when this airs, but in early April, we play the Prince concert around. They usually do classical oratorio, the heavyweight stuff. But every now and then we'll do a pops concert of sorts. We did a couple of Beatles concerts that sold out. The 50s concerts, we did one very big. So now we're doing the 60s that will include the Beatles. I'm not even sure I'm playing them yet, but I know we have horns. So I play guitar with them and sing a couple of solos. And they're
So you can be highbrow also.
I got both brows. I got brown
Your brows are nice.
Well, you know,
It's
Shakespeare.
like the ruler.
Shakespeare was, you know, we were mentioning the Shakespeare group that it sounds highfalutin until you actually go see the shows and you realize that Shakespeare was an entertainer.
Yes.
Yeah.
He just wrote very
Well, I want to ask you about the Room Mechanicals and how that came to be. The program has grown so much. Can you share with listeners how it started?
Yeah,
Well, first of all, tell them what the Room Mechanicals is.
The Room Mechanicals is a summer Shakespeare company, although we sometimes do things other times. We began really just with a one show kind of paying students in the park, not unlike Joseph Papp in New York, except, you know, slightly less budget. But back up just a little bit, I was playing in bands, and some of the theater people in town came out, and you know, because you bombard your friends when you're in the gig. And they said, hey, you can sing a little bit, and you're not afraid to stand on the stage. Why don't you audition for something? And I said, well, if you put Jesus Christ Superstar on, I'll audition, because I didn't think that would ever happen. It was being revived on Broadway right that minute. I wasn't paying attention. Ed brought it and put it on the university season. The very next season, I thought, I actually put my foot in the mouth. And I auditioned, and they cast me as pilot and had a great experience. And from that, I got asked to do a lot of the things. The assistant director was a guy named Andre LaSalle. He was a grad directing student. And Dre came up to me one night when I was walking out to the smoking bar. I don't smoke, but I walked to the smoking bar. And said, hey, you're doing great. I'm like, hey, thanks. Who are you? Because I didn't know who all the technical different people were. It was my first show. He said, assistant director. And he said, this summer we're doing a production, or the next summer, of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Would you be interested? I said, I don't know how to act. He said, well, I'll teach you. So that's how it started, really. He wanted me to take over because he knew I was going to stay. And that he hadn't graduated. So from the beginning, that he would be back to a leader of the group. And we just sort of did a thing where we had fun together. And I named the group. We went forward to the second show. And we did shows and shows. And then I brought in a partner who was a theater professor for a while. Partner for a while. He was a theater professor when he retired recently. Just began, kept getting forward. And we still do at least one show in the summer, and we do a Christmas Carol around the holidays.
You know, I loved going to see Shakespeare in the Park, and you know, taking a lot of friends with me, and it's great. And I love you guys pass around the hat for contributions, but you also pass around the butt spray. Butt spray is so important, you know.
I do appreciate that.
I do appreciate that as well.
And I know so many people that participate as well, and they talk so highly of it and about just the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I thank you for being a part of that and for founding it.
Well, it's never been affiliated with anyone, really. So we do draw them everywhere. We have university students, we have university faculty sometimes, and we have community members such as myself. And I get people just showing up sometimes saying, hey, how do I be a partner? I said, you're talking to the right guy. What can you do? I'll put you to work.
That's awesome. Well, you've written some really beautifully dedicated memorials to people who've passed. What's the most interesting person you feel like you've written about, or a favorite one?
Oh, that's impossible. But I can tell you a couple of them. I remember one of the ones I wrote that people noticed was about Nick Delgado. He's the guy who created Nicks and the Sticks. The guy who lived to be 90-something and they created this very famous steakhouse. He was sort of a raconteur. He'd hang around with his big stogie long after the fire and smoke at people. But they didn't mind it because he was Nick. He was the cool guy. He had such an interesting life. He had been at one point in my dream job, which was the leader of an all-woman band. Like, wait a minute.
Wait, how?
Yeah. He was the band leader.
Ah.
He waved the baton. Yeah. So that was one. Jack Warner, that Vicksburg won an award, partly because he was such a big figure in art and in business around here. But the ones that are written about friends and family are tough ones. But the only measure of success on it is when people read it and say, either you got it, you captured it, or they say, I didn't know that person, but I didn't feel like it.
Right.
Getting quoted in funerals, too.
Yeah.
That's another measure. Because a lot of times somebody who's conducting service may not have known the person personally. Well, I didn't either. But if you ask enough people enough questions for long,
Sure. So, Mark, I have to ask you, because we are both kids of twins,
Mhm.
So your dad was a twin, my mom
Yes.
was a twin, and I know that my mom and her twin sister were exactly opposite. I mean, they looked exactly alike, but their personalities were completely different. So did you have any kind of experiences with your dads, and did you like ever get them mixed up? Because I mixed up I thought I was talking to my mom, and it was actually my aunt. So did you ever have that kind of experience?
Uncle Lloyd fooled a lot of people, but not us. We all fell apart. No, their faces were slightly different. I mean, if you look at the photos, you go, yeah, they're identical, but they're not. Dad's face was slightly leaner this way. I think you guys can see it a little bit. But Lloyd's cheekbones were actually a little bit wider. And they did sound exactly like the phone. So my dad passed before Lloyd did, and it was weird hearing from Lloyd all the time. You know, but it was sweet because I loved him dearly, of course, but it was just tough, you know. It was such an image. But they were different in that they lived together until they were 18. But Dad had to go off to war. He was part of the National Guard, and he was sent to war to help pay for his college. Uncle Lloyd was in the service, but he did not actually go to war. So their lives kind of got burned there a little bit. Dad's experiences were rough. But they were both really fun-loving guys, and they used to hang out and go to the Grand Ole Opry together. And they both had what I think of as the Bill Clinton soul. They didn't sound very Southern until they got tired.
Yeah.
Or until they had a couple of drinks later.
Yeah, the drawl comes out.
They were very cool. Both of them were. That I could show you pictures of them. They looked like punks, you know. And they leaning on the hoods of cars if they were short. Grew up in a small place called Kennedy, 500 people a year, so you had to make your own thing.
Yeah.
And they did.
Very cool. Very cool.
They're
Well-
legends about them.
Well, Mark, we've reached the point of our interview where we'd like to ask you a few more questions in our segment called Before You Go.
Okay.
So they're really very random, rapid-fire questions. So my first one is, what is the best time of day for you to write an article?
When I'm not asleep. I have a lot of insomnia, so usually it's early afternoon because I tend to like roll toward the day. I do a lot of interviews and things in the mornings, and then I actually get down to work after lunch.
I see your mark.
After coffee. Yes, probably getting my third or fourth coffee.
If you could be an animal, what would it be?
The immediate thought was tiger, but I think it's because I had a bad dream last night. No, I was talking about fear, the idea of fear, and I remember Maria Del Costa, who just passed away. We used to write haunted house reviews together, and the idea that fear is evolutionarily advantageous because the one time it's a tiger in the bush, the scared guy, he wins. Everybody else loses. So I don't think so. I think I really want to be an orangutan.
Okay.
Yes.
I donate to Orangutan Foundation.
Me
It's
too.
in Borneo in Malaysia, I believe. I've never actually been there, but I have an adopted child named Harambe. He is just as ugly as a flat tire.
Hey, they've got a face only mothers can love, but I love them dearly.
I'm a mother then. because
Sure
I-
is.
Orangutans are good. I also love elephants, and I had a German Shepherd I love very much. So somewhere in between those, can we make a hybrid? Like
So
a
you
hybrid
wanna be-
orangutan elephant.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
Stop.
Something.
Oh my gosh, when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Superhero. And
Any particular one?
well, I wanted to be my own, but going back to Scotty a little bit, he taught me letters originally in comic books because they were bigger in print. And he would go, look, S looks like this, it looks like a snake. He should have been a teacher. And he said, Scotty, dang it, Superman. So I looked for a Monel or something like that, and Monel was kind of wacky. But no, I thought fireman, superhero, center fielder for the Braves, Elizabeth Montgomery's second or third.
Ah.
You had lofty dreams.
Well, I who wouldn't want to be married to a witch?
Well, there
Actually,
you
I did do that. Not the way I thought.
Okay, so I know this is going to be a hard one. Print or digital news?
Print always, because it's just the tactile sense of it. We are people who like to hold things and be able to see them. 70% of our sensory organs are devoted to sight, and I don't think people like looking at screens as much. We do it, obviously we have to, and there's an inevitable spiraling that way. But print, just because I still buy books too. I know some people listen to books and some people Kindle, I just can't.
It's not the same when it's on my Kindle. I need to hold the book to really feel like I'm a part of it.
There needs to be a texture to it, tactile, exactly. You need to feel it.
Mark, what music are you listening to these days?
The ones in my head.
The ones that you're creating?
Right now, yeah, actually, I just started writing again some last year.
Nice.
I had been out of writing for a while, and I wrote two songs basically last year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I was reapproaching it. I wrote 33 songs the first month I tried writing songs because I'd recently been divorced and I had material. But of those 33, only about 2 were playable, and 1 wound up on the album. And so I know that that's usually the way it works, but now I'm a little more greedy with my time. So I wrote 2 songs. One of them everybody loved. We played it through Christmas Carol. It's part of this duet between Scrooge and Belle, and it made people weep. And so I thought, well, that's what I hoped. And usually when you play a song like that, and people cry. You're like, oh, they're in pain. But no, this was a sad song. Then I wrote a happy song that I thought was fun, and I played it at the Sanctuary in 25th, and it just went crickets. And so, you have to kind of like keep reinventing. But for real, though, I am working on some 60s stuff for the Prince Concert Grill show. So that man hits horns. So that's
I have to say, one of my favorites is Krispy Kreme.
hot now.
Yeah.
Hot now is,
Can you sing us a line or two just real quick?
I could tell you how I wrote it. It might not sound so good on the microphone, but Maya Michelson, who was the executive director of Kentucky at the time, said, Mark, you should write a song called Hot Now. And so I said, I think I just did. It took about 2.5 minutes, and that's about how long it goes. And it starts with, I'm down with the girl with the Krispy Kreme, paper hair, and a diabetic dream, colors and sprinkles and chocolate glaze, stuff with grape jelly. I was mildly dazed. That's all this is the first verse. Then Hot Now is a call response. And I say, Hot Now, and you say,
Hot now.
there you go. That's pretty much all the whole song right there.
Backup singers right now.
And when I play it, I usually close with it because it's so silly and fun. And I get the crowd to go Hot Now. Everybody feels like they're part of the process.
Right.
It's fun. 2.5 minutes, nobody.
That's really cool. Is there a play you'd like to perform that you haven't yet?
Well, there's a lot of contemporary stuff because the movie channels only do a lot of copyright
Right.
ancient stuff. We have done works by actually our spin-off stage reading group here at the university has done a lot of different things. But I have not had time to audition for a lot. I've done a few student films. I've done musicals, but there's some fun ones that aren't done much like Les Miserables. You have to say, well, you can't say Les Miserables. There's, of course, Sweeney Todd's not done very often. Sweeney Todd. Anything sonnet, pretty much. And there's a fun newish one called Something Rotten that I feel like should be done there. I believe the act did it, but I was unable to be part of that. So that's the fun one. It's about Shakespeare's time, about how a team of jealous playwrights tries to steal his best play by consulting a Nostradamus, but it's actually Nostradamus' brother who's not here today. And he tells them that Shakespeare's big play is going to be called Omelette. So they write a musical called Omelette, and that's the whole basis of the show. It's like modern Shakespeare.
First Krispy Kreme, now omelets.
Yeah. And then Shakespeare himself is a rock star. He's kind of arrogant, so I thought, that's perfect.
Well, so here's our last question, and it's a personal one for me. When we worked together, you used to have this paper mache human in your cubicle, poking out, and every time I walked past your cubicle, it would just stare me down. Did it have a name, and do you still have it?
Everything. I don't throw things out, but a name. I think I let people project their own names. So, what do you think it was?
Well, see, I thought it came from one of the Monster Makeover type events, and
Yes.
so that's what
Okay.
So I can't remember if it had a specific name.
I'll let people vote. Did you vote on it?
I don't think
Okay,
it is.
his name is Scabby J. Jodo Esquire. That was based on the.
This is great.
That was based on the votes of a bunch of people. It was a piece by Sherry. Sherry's name is blank. She's called Sherry Moore, I think. She's part of an extended family of artists out in Florida, originally from the Glenn House's family, and Marcia, the Museum of Miscellanea. And yeah, it was, we had the Monster Makeover thing we created, Tuscaloosa News created, and we let little kids draw monsters, then we have adult artists reinterpret them, and her interpretation of this guy was, something like, he eats army men, houses, and bacon. So Sherry created a see-through stomach with a mesh belly that had little plastic army men, Monopoly hotels, and little pigs. So yeah, he's got teeth.
And so that monster makeover actually evolved into monster takeover. And so there's several pieces that have been reinterpreted, and now they're like little figurines scattered throughout the city.
Yeah, tragically, a bunch of them have been stolen. They're very small. Well, they used to be a lot more in the Riverwalk, but they're little bronzes, and they were, I think, Craig Weatherspoon here at the university in charge, and some other people had them created. And they did take from some of the books we made, which the kids explained what the monsters were, and they recreated them. And you can still find some of them, and the plan is, I think, to create some more, but right now, I don't know. I know the city is in favor of public art, and they understand its value, but there's fewer things that we're talking about.
That's a fun project to take.
Scabby J lives on in my memory.
To take the,
He's still at the office right now.
Okay, good. So he's still judging.
Current office, not the
He's still judging everyone.
he's in a corner now, so he's even better. You can't avoid Scabby.
Okay, I'm digging it.
You can't avoid him looking at you.
All right, so down from monsters, we just want to thank you, Mark. This is the end of our time, and we want to thank you for being with us on our show today.
Truly.
We really enjoyed a lot of what you had to, what you're doing to contribute to the community. So we thank you for that. So we do want to thank our guest, Mark Hughes Cobb, for being our guest on Coffee and History, a conversation with Alabama heritage. You can find our podcast wherever you listen, and also watch us on our YouTube channel. Be sure to follow us, like us, and give us a rating or a comment or both. And don't forget that if you want to subscribe to our print magazine, just log on to alabamaheritage.com. Until next time, thanks for listening. But first, I think I need some more coffee. So bye, everybody.
Bye.
There's no